Morning, we're taking a look at the nation and wanting to ask ourselves certain questions and say a couple of things to the president. And helping us out with that this morning is one Professor Peter Kagwanja, who is the CEO of the Africa Policy Institute, and he's here. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, Do. And how are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
I've just traveled from Beijing.
Oh,
so
really?
That lady who books this place, I tried to plead with her to allow me to rest, and said, no, there's no resting
There's
time.
no rest for the wicked.
There's problems. There are trouble in Kenya.
This Eve, don't take her as you see her. She's quite the tough cookie.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And still, you still have managed to look fantastic in aqua this morning.
Thank you. Yeah.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
You've just landed, and
Yes.
so has Dennis.
Yes.
And he's going to tell us which country he's coming from. And we would love you to share your interpretation of the proverb.
I mean, this country that over 140 million years ago split from Africa, and also 88 million years ago also split from India. So we're talking about the island of Madagascar, the fourth largest island across the world. You know, when you talk about the animal species, just unique, you talk about the lemurs. It is a country that also had a president who's a former DJ, you know, if you want to party,
Madagascar, yes.
You know, yeah.
And a nice
The
movement.
Malagasy people. So the Malagasy people today are giving us this proverb. And the proverb says, do not be like the chicken that scratches for food while destroying its own nest. How would you interpret that?
It means you have to be a little bit strategic in doing things. As you, in other words, you might be thinking you're very wise, but you're cutting a branch on which you sit. The next thing you see is that you're falling. That's how I would interpret it. So in your greed to be full, in your greed to be recognized as the wealthiest African, you might end up destroying your country, which is your nest.
Yeah.
Really.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, the beautiful thing is look at the smile on Professor this morning. You just gotta love it, man. You just gotta love it.
In the need to scratch away to get something to eat, you might destroy your own nest.
Yes.
And if it falls apart, you fall out of the tree.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yep.
Or wherever it is that you nest. So usually Monday mornings, we're looking at saying a word or two. Dear Mr. President is where we are. And you know what? I think about the last time that you were here, and even at that time, we were talking about that there is no need to look very far for things that you would have to say to the president that just seem to be served up every other time. And even in a bid to be positive and optimistic about how things are, that unfortunately you're not dealt with very much to then ride on. As the week went into the end of a month, we then were blessed, should I say, with many more things that people could come and say, okay, so really, where are we here? And I'm going to even start with, the Auditor General's reports that have been coming out over the last couple of weeks. And she's been giving really damning reports in terms of what has been happening. And that we are looking at grand theft auto, essentially, the great pilfering of resources at the very foot of what should be the development for the country. And we're asking the questions, number one, to get answers, but number two, to share information, as we should from this position where we sit. And if the Auditor General, who is the Chief Accounting Officer for government, is saying that we have problems in terms of billions, not millions, we passed millions a while ago, billions of shillings that should go to certain places and they're not going, and she makes her recommendations, but they end just there. What would be the word to dear Mr. President, who seems to be surrounded by very many advisors and people who should be his friends, telling him about ways in which things should be made better, but doesn't seem to be listening?
I do remember one of the most famous narratives in history, in human history, is the French Revolution. It's one topic on which a book or two comes out every year. And one of the tantalizing stories about it was where there's this beautiful lady, the queen, or the wife to the monarch, who he sees people protesting outside there and asks what do they want. And she's told that they want bread. And why can't they eat cakes?
Yes.
Because for her, life where she is so comfortable that there are choices between cakes and bread.
Surely.
But for the rest, there is none. I think the word we have for the president relating to Kenya is that first and foremost, we need to go to the foundations of this country. And the foundation of this country is not a hidden secret. It is, we talk about it every day. And the president himself sings about it every day. It is in our national anthem. That this country was created by God for all of us, not for one of us. And that this nation is a moral nation. And a moral nation is a nation where people don't look after themselves, they look after others. Leaders are not about self-aggrandizement and self-accumulation. It's about creating the wealth of the nation. And that is where people are complaining. It's not an attack on an individual, let's say William Ruto. It is a reassertion of the values on which we are built as a country. That we are a moral nation, a nation where justice is our shield and defender. And what do we mean by justice? When you appoint to your government people who are known to be corrupt, who are dealing in trades that do not benefit the country but harm this and future generations. When you throw overboard the idea of meritocracy, then you are telling a young kid, Kenyan kid, that they should not go to school, because even if you get a PhD, you are likely to starve to death. I dare say this is one of the very few countries in the world where a holder of a PhD can sleep without a meal. Because if you have no job, what does having a PhD mean? Because this is where we are in this country. I can mention one or two who are really scraping through, and they're highly qualified. So
why? Can I stop you there? Why is it so bad? What has made the situation so terrible where somebody who is clearly skilled and educated, but then is not able to get something to do at whatever level? Because
you veered away from the foundation, the moral foundations of this country. We are a moral nation where hard work pays, right? And progress in your own life is rewarded by your country. In other words, we are a merit-based country. We are based on the principle of meritocracy. Yet when you look at the so-called advisors that the president has surrounded himself with, most of them are not there because they deserve it. They are there because it's payback or royalty, or because it's part of a deal to get the government going. That is not the foundation on account of which we were founded as a people. And what does that mean? When you count the salaries of 25 top advisors in a country which is basically on its knees economically, is that really frugal? Is that a wise way of spending our shilling? Now, this is where we have a problem. Obviously, the other thing is even when you get the right skills, they are misplaced. They are put. Good economists to become the head surgeons. And therefore, and you get surprised that we're having messy operations or messy surgeries. And you talk about it in town, about how people are inept, how people are incapable. This country is not short of great people. The other thing related to that one can talk about is about being upright men and women. You remember Thomas Sankara and why he renamed his country from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso, translated in his native language, is the land of upright people. And the people themselves became Burkinabe, people who are upright. Just to remind themselves every day that great nations are built by upright people, not by people who every day are looking for opportunities to make a dime or two out of corruption and out of mismanagement or those kind of things. So it is important for us to remember that we as Kenyans are also a lot of upright people. That's what the founding fathers of this nation wanted us to be. So every day you make a deal that brings NHIF down or SHIF or SHA down. Anytime you divide money that is enough to pay for free primary education, free secondary education, free university education, and even free post-doctoral education, you divide it into small atomized funds that go to MCAs, to constituencies, to governors, women rep, senators, economic advisors, government. The president, I think, has 5 funds. So you atomize a fund that is capable of supporting the best education on planet Earth.
What you're saying is put it together, which I think has been advocated for the longest time.
Yes.
Because this is what we're looking at. That look at the position of the nation.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And there was a man, very brilliant, who once said, you know what, if you want to understand the pulse of any nation, we're not just talking about on the African continent, any nation, look at the condition of who would be the most vulnerable at any one time. The children.
Yes.
Those who may be on the lower rung when it comes to then being able to feed. If their situation is so despicable that they can't survive, then that's the true picture of the nation.
Yeah.
So now here we are saying all these funds all over the place. We have people lining up for bursary every time. We're going to third term. It's about to start again. County governments are about to now start handing out checks. Members of parliament about to do the same thing. NGAF is also about to do the same thing with the women rep. We are also going to see the president's fund. I mean, for crying out loud. But are we saying if you take all of that, put it in one fund like a federal system and say we are sending this money to schools and everybody prepare your children, get up, go to school, period.
Yeah, that is what it is supposed to be. 2 things that we can fund for ourselves without having to get any loan from World Bank, IMF and what have you, is 1, education that we can, where we have reached. 2 is health that we can. Now, we can struggle with everything else about our luxuries of what airline we are going to use and what buses we are going to use and so on. But those 2 we can. But why are we not able to? Because of the nature of our politics. Call it the culture of our politics. You want that MCA, you want that member of parliament, you want that governors to go bragging to people in the villages how they have helped them. Like there is any money, they are making those offices of theirs. They're not making money in the county government. They're not making money in constituencies. They're getting money from the top. Why can't that top behave and remove this nonsense? And remember, you are wasting the time of Kenyans. A Kenyan is told to go to the office to collect the form. They collect the form. They are told the next day is to return the form. The third day is to announce the bursary. You are spending 1,000 shillings to go for this. So by the time you are handed over the bursary, it is 2,000. And you have spent 3,000 on the back and forth movement to go for that bursary. 2,000 when the fee you are supposed to pay per year is 54,000 Kenya shillings. So are we really a serious nation? Or we are just out for a big joke? So, and mark you don't need a nuclear scientist to do the calculation for you. If you take the 5 or so presidential funds, you take the 47 county funds, you take the 290 MP funding, and I think 46,000 plus MCA funding, you amalgamate it, you have more money than you need to pay for all education in this country. What does that tell us? That somebody somewhere is supposed to be accountable for this nation. Remember, when we set up the new constitution, we created one center of accountability. So when people start thinking, the police are shooting, I said, leave the police alone. They are given guns and bullets. The question is, the order they are given. Police cannot do what they are not. They are not to do. Yes, they were hired, and the only thing they are given is not a djembe and a wheelbarrow. It is a gun and bullets.
Yes.
Now, two, you find that the officers in the government who are said to be corrupt and so on, and you start identifying them. That is diversionary. The real thing is our constitution has only one person who is accountable to us. We have not two centers of accountability. There is only one. And therefore, the responsibility falls within. Everything else is is trying to hold this office into account. Take the role of the parliament's oversight over the executive. Take the role of judiciary. It is to arbitrate about how the the executive. The executive has the sole responsibility, and it should take that responsibility. So when our kids cannot go to school, our kids, when we cannot pay our fees because we are so poor, and somebody failed to attain their goals as members of this nation, then only one person is accountable. So the one who sits at the apex of the executive.
Prof, we're just from having a discussion here on education, and UNICEF has just said that 2 million Kenyan students will not be able to go to school.
Yes.
We're talking about a constitution that is also so clear on matters to do with basic education that is mandatory and should be free. But here we're talking about deficits of up to 64 billion shillings that has not been remitted to these basic schools and education in the country. And here we talk about constitutionalism and political expediency. You find the constitution is not being followed, is not being respected. It seems as though people don't care what this document says, but all they want to do is play politics, and all they care about is how they will retain power. What will it take for us to reset that button and do things the right way?
Well, first and foremost, for us to reset this nation, and I like that question, we have to educate our citizens. Because democracy has been said to be the worst form of government, but there is no other one that is better than it. That is Winston Churchill. But Kenya is reaching a level in terms of our politicking that we are now jokers. So the citizen needed to become into focus. And as we approach 2027, this becomes even more imperative. Why? Because you remember the problem that some of the thinkers of democracy, are during its formative stages in ancient Greece, Socrates, was telling us the story of an election where the dentist lost so badly in a contest with the sweet seller or candy seller. This man was selling sweets, and he came in public and promised, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to make your life sweet all through," because he sells sweets. You come to my shop, you get your sweet, and you have a happy day. But my competition is going to make your life painful, and it's going to draw blood. This is the dentist. And at the end of the election, they elected the sweet seller. What did that mean? That they are going to be fed with sweet, and at the end of the term, they are going to have such bad teeth that you need not one, but many dentists. Yet you are responsible for putting this sweet seller to office. So we must take responsibility of our democracy. And taking responsibility of our democracy is just ensuring that you have a sword in your hand, and you have to use it to put it to good use, not bad use. Don't cast your vote to candy seller, because they're not going to damage your teeth. Look for a dentist, because they're going to guide you on how to look after your teeth. You don't have to have an expense. That is one lesson we have learned from democracy, and that's what and that now begins to become the whole journey to respecting a constitution. We know for sure some of the people who are putting this constitution on a back burner are the same ones who opposed it. They were in the red. Yeah, they opposed it. And I have always wondered whether it's possible for people who really oppose the constitution to implement it to the letter. And in any case, do they even know the letter? They have their own notion of the Constitution. So that's why they have no moral qualms or any, indignation, putting that Constitution, the back banner, and governing like we are back to 1980.
Yeah. Do you think, and if so, how would we see an exemplification of the same, that the president at this point knows what to do? That there could be wild conjecture flying about that, somebody could be dissatisfied because it was never their choice in the first place. But then there's also the fact, which is different from truth in some cases, but there's also the fact that when you look across sectors, there is something wrong. There is something going wrong. Whether it's in education, we've seen it. And now, of course, we know that it did not start with President Ruto's administration. This has been a long in the tooth. We also see that there's a problem in the health sector. We still can't seem to wrap things around. Bringing in a new system doesn't seem quite to work. Infrastructure, there's a problem. Whether we look at how government and taxpayers' money is handled, there's a problem. It's not even coming from people who are on social media. It's coming from the Auditor General herself, who has been given a job by government to do this very thing. And she's saying, hang on a minute, even the billions that we say we've lost, look at where it's gone. Do you think he knows what to do?
Yes, he does. And if you don't know, which is normal, because nobody's born knowing anything. The only thing you are given by God is your brains. So you go and seek to know that which you don't know. Asking questions where you need answers. That is the provision of advisors in government.
He's got a number of them.
That's the provision is the provision of the positions of advisors in government is predicated upon the idea that you might not know and you need to know. And that is why the saying goes, show me your advisors and I'll tell you who you are. But of course, it is also assumed generally that advice means that you have the capacity to consume the advice. What if you don't? For example, you are know-it-all fellow, that in everything from cooking to swimming to everything you know. And you cannot listen to anybody. What happens if you find yourself in such a situation? Now, Kenya is in a knowledge age. That's when we are governing. Knowledge is so central to our governing, to the point that you cannot govern with people around you who have knowledge of what they're looking at. But your role as a leader is where you are sitting at the apex of things. You are the spider weaving the web. That's where you're seated. And therefore you have the forest. And you are convinced that you have people who know the trees in those forests.
Sure.
And therefore the whole infrastructure will work together. But when you now begin to hack the trees yourself, you throw the whole country into confusion. There is a toilet that need to get to public use. You open it. There is a river that is silted. You go in the morning to unsilt it. There are some vegetables that need to get to the market. You go and inaugurate the marketing of that vegetable. You know,
some wildebeest that are crossing
some wildebeest that are about to cross from Tanzania to Kenya. You launch the coming of the wildebeest into Kenya from Tanzania. You know, the sun is about to rise in the morning. You wake up and usher the sun.
Yes.
You know, to us. Mundane things about life. I worked for a president in this country who would... I worked for a president in this country who at one point we were at pain to get him out to go and campaign for the Constitution because he thought that we should do it. Then we told him, no, this is yours. This one you have to do it yourself. You have to get out and go tell Kenyans why they need a new Constitution. Tell them that after the Constitution, the police will be asking you, for permission to arrest you. They will not be beating you into pulp, and so on. So then this is what we were talking about, the new Kibaki. Why? Because he was a person who sit where he's supposed to be, at the apex of the forest. You watch the whole broad of the forest, and you can tell that is the tree there, that's the tree there, that's the tree there. If you find the tree is withering, then you call the person who is managing that tree. Come around.
Yeah,
tell me what is
first of all, what's the problem?
Yes, what is the problem there? Then they come and explain. Okay, so what can we do? This is what governing is. It is not about waking up every morning with an axe to hack every tree in the forest. And if you do that as an executive, whether of a company or of a nation, then that country or nation or company is doomed. So even that's where we find ourselves.
Yeah. So before we go to a break, what are you saying, Prof? That essentially you would see if somebody was interested in making a change.
Yes, you would, because somebody who is interested in change will start by asking questions. Like, for example, this is now, I think, the third year, President William Ruto. I have very many friends who have been consultants with international governments, including World Bank, China, and so on. And they have never, ever been called, even by any of his PSs, for questions. And one asks, where are these fellows getting their advice from? We are in the universities paid for by government. And nobody is asking even a question, even a phone call at this age of time, or a WhatsApp message about what should we do in Sudan? What should we do in Somalia? What should we do in Congo? Or what is wrong with the Congo? Just a small message in a WhatsApp so that you get to know. So people are, governing like this is their personal property, or it's a fiefdom.
Not with a country with 55 million people.
And with our 55, 57, citizens, we cannot be taken for granted.
Things are going out of whack, not appear to be, not, it just is unfortunately not working. There are too many things that are tipping the apple cart at the moment. And we come off the place where we say that if he doesn't know, that's why you have advisors. But what happens in the case where your advisors are not advising you?
There is one who yesterday said, and wrote a whole column on it, and I wondered whether they were in their right mind, that it's time to abolish borders or something like that. And when people are back to the basics. The only job available for a graduate today in Kenya is to run a boda. Because if you can't get a job in the office and you can't die of hunger, what do? You go for you get a boda and you try your luck. At least you put food on the table and roof over your head. That's all. And somebody comes and proposes that you get, and this is one of the battery of advisors that are around the president. I found that very, very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Why? Because I remember the sitting in President Kibaki's government, and him asking the question, what do we do? We have promised people jobs, and they're not coming as fast as we wanted them to come. And there are all these young Kenyans who are coming out of schools and so on. What do we do for them? And somebody suggested, why don't we go the Uganda way? Remember, boda is largely a Ugandan initiative as a mode of public transport. For them, they use both the bicycles and the boda, and then this is what you get. So in short, what happened is that moved the taxes on the boda, and it was affordable to very, very ordinary Kenyans. And that's the beginning of this. Now today, you begin to look at the economy that is revolving around the boda, both as a means of production because it is producing wealth in itself, and as a bridge for other people who want to get their goods across. You can now get vegetables from the depth of Nyandarua to the market. Previously, you could not. Carrots and others are fed to cows because they cannot reach the market. Today, they can. At least you can get them to the tarmac road and then find their way to the good market. So this is the kind of advice we are saying that, the Chinese have a saying that if you are not improving on silence, you have no right to talk. So if you have no advice, please don't advise. Shut up and wait until that time you have advice to give, because only then can you improve on silence. Only then can you improve on the situation as it is now. So I would say that what our leadership requires, both the president and those around him, is to go back to the drawing board and ask a very basic question. What was Kenya designed to be as a country? And the Americans every day ask that question. I've been reading as I was traveling from Beijing to Kenya. I was reading a lot from the Americans asking why their country is not working. And because it reaches a level where you have to begin to look at the factory settings of everything, yourself, the country, and so on. So what is the factory setting for Kenya? So that when you tell us you're doing good, then you judge yourself against what you know the task was. If you're a consultant like myself, the most important things are the terms of reference, what you were told to do. Because you can do many things. Like my student who I asked when I was a younger teacher in high school, and I asked, you critically assess the role of Prophet Hosea. And the young man, I think, had not read anything and just decided to say that far be it from me to criticize a prophet for God. I shall instead write about King David. Now, he's writing about King David, but that's not what is asked.
Yes.
He's supposed to talk about Hosea. Might we be having a leadership in Kenya that is writing about King David when they are supposed to talk about Prophet Hosea?
And Prof, if you
because they don't know the basic question that they're answering.
And Prof, if you look at it in that light, you talk about, there's something you said earlier that we need to look at the moral of the nation.
Yeah.
You know, and if you talk about moral of the nation, you go back to the national anthem, justice be our shield and defender. And you talk about justice be our shield and defender, we go back to this document. But now let's look at the center of leadership in this country and ask if it's still holding. And when I talk about leadership, I'm not talking about the executive. I'm talking about the people who give those in power that mandate to lead. And if you look at Kenyans themselves today, the center is not holding. They're saying, we do not like how you're leading us. We need to do things differently. But are they listening?
No, this is the point. And the point we're making by saying we need to go to the factory setting of Republic of Kenya. We need to go the basics. We need to look back to the visions that the founding fathers of this country had. It is not because we are not 60 years old. We are. And remember, Kenya was there before the British came. And we had a view of who we are. Now, when you take the aggregate of all that, then the basic question you'll ask is, where did the founders of the Republic for Kenya wanted to take this country? And every day, as I said, you are reminded by our national anthem. We are believers in God, sincere believers in God. It's not about the temples we're building for Him. It's not about the churches we're building for Him. It's not about the monuments we're building for God. It is about the basic belief, O God of all creation. That's where we begin with our national anthem. O God of all creation. Then you have to know your country. Bless our land and nation. Why do we say our land and nation and not our land? Because we are a country of diversity with different visions and ambitions that need to be harmonized by a God-fearing man. Right? We have land and 44 or 40 tribes, depending on who is counting. Right? And many clans to boot. Right? Then the only way you can hold this architecture together is to have justice as your shield and defender. Not to kill aimlessly, not to abduct your fellow citizens, not to steal from public coffers, not to make yourself and your family wealthy at the expense of the other Kenyans. Then the justice is not a shield in this point. It is not when you watch, you disaggregate resources to the point that becomes so useless. Whereas if it was one kitty, it can benefit Kenyans who deserve it. Right? So you scuttle resources, including donations in churches, donations in schools, donations in funerals. You know, a young man is shot for no reason by the police, and then the first thing you do is to send millions there.
Yeah.
Why do you want to have them dead fast so that you take millions? Maybe that young man has never even, the family has never received a million. But here they are receiving it when their son is dead. Those are the questions that tell us we are not having justice as our shield and defender. But then it moves on to say that peace and liberty is what we want. Unity, peace, and liberty. And liberty here means freedom. Now, if you cannot allow Kenyans to breathe the air that they have, to walk up their mountains and breathe, to go down their valleys and breathe, to go to their lakes and breathe, then you are not worth leading the Kenyans, because Kenyans need to breathe. And they need that peace to walk to their destinations. They need that unity to work together in their factories, in their companies, in their schools, in every locality that they are working. They need that.
Prof, in your own assessment, is it too late for that reset button? Does the leadership have a chance?
Well, the good thing is biology is the equalizer, just like education is for the mind. Nobody, even if you are a dictator, Moi governed us with an iron fist in the 80s and 90s. He grew old, right? And started basically living like an old man and beginning to look back and say, I wish I did this and this and this. And people understood him at that level. But in the same case we have today, that you can never govern Kenya for eternity because we are not a dynasty. Some people will come. And why are we talking? And I don't think we are talking to criticize President William Ruto. No, I wouldn't wake up in the morning to come and criticize him. I would wake up and go to State House gates and start shouting on top of my voice because I have that freedom to do that. Why do I come here? It is so that other Kenyans will listen to me and know that this is not the way we were born to be governed as a country. So I know this program today, the Situation Room, is about Mr. President. But I think it's go beyond Mr. President. It goes to other fellow Kenyans. Because there are people we respect like Raila Odinga, right? And Raila Odinga is a man we have held in very high esteem. Even when you fight him with the dignity because you know you're fighting a great man. What is happening today? What's happening? Those are the things. That's why we are talking here and saying the factory setting of this country is justice. The aspiration of this country is peace. The aspiration of this country is to live in plenty, in prosperity. That's and we put those words that if you're singing just one verse of our national anthem, you have to spell out those factory settings of the Republic of Kenya. Justice, unity, peace, freedom, and prosperity. Those are the values. Now, if you have to tick the box of this leadership now, as it is, the current leadership, you would tick none. Out of those 5 or so values that make us a country, there is none that you can tick and say justice, X, peace, X, unity, X, freedom, X, prosperity, XX. That's what you do. So out of that, you get 0. This is it. This is the truth.
There seems to be a blueprint, however. Usually one of the markers for development of a nation is what they've been able to do economically. That when a nation has developed economically, then we say, yes, there. Then at least something has been done. When you have a human rights record that is stellar, then you say, yes, at least that we've been able to do that. Educated, along those lines. But Kenya has a blueprint. And I know this because of some of the things that we see when there are economic partnerships between countries. Kenya is always there, whereby nations visiting a part of the region of the continent, Kenya is there. I mean, most recently we saw Kenya sign what they're calling the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement with the UAE. They're there. The blueprint is there. But for some reason, the skeleton is there. We're not able to put on the flesh and bones. They're not able to put, the flesh on the bones. And could that be that crossover is the problem, and that the people behind these activities are the ones? So it could be, dear Mr. President, but it's beyond, like you say, beyond him. There are other people who fill in, and we're saying that there is a lacking, that there is something that is fundamentally wrong. It's in Kenya, it's in South Africa, it's in Nigeria, it's across board, it's everywhere, whereby there's a lackadaisical manner with which we approach this development that we speak about. But then for some reason, we still reserve the right to complain. Why?
I think the point we have made is that when this country was founded and we've moved the way we have done, we have been a country that put people at the center of our activity. We are people-centric. Our citizen comes first. And that's why we debate among ourselves. Not all the time we have had consensus. If you remember the debate around Sessional Paper number 10 of 1965, that basically provided the motherboard for this country, there were a lot of disagreements. But along the way, people came around and saw that this is the way we want to be. We want to have a free market. We don't want to have a socialist market like Tanzania or Uganda at that time. And we agreed. So we debate, but all of those who are debating in this, whether it was Jaramogi on one hand and Tom Mboya on the other, Jomo Kenyatta on one hand and Bildad Kagia on the other, when they were debating as Kenyans, they were all people-centered. So the principle of being people-centered is important. 2 is to look at who we are. As a country, we can only be a superpower in soft power, not in hard power. Soft power meaning we use the ideas of persuasion. We can never use the club. We can never use the spear. We can only use the persuasion. That's the best weapon we have. And because of honing that particular instrument for a long time, our neighbors saw that it is paying off. We have been one of the most peaceful country around. Never mind about our own issues, about dictatorships and so on locally. But on the whole, we've been peaceful. And we have exported peace to our neighbors. And what does that mean? Our foreign policy is respected. We are taken as a regional power. Even though we cannot compare in terms of resources with Ethiopia. In terms of population, they are almost 2 times or 3 times our population. Their land is almost 2.5 times our land. Yet, they don't command the same weight that we command. Why? Because the founding fathers of this country and those who built it later, built it on that basis of both internal and external justice. That you are an honest broker to your neighbors. You are an honest broker internally among the diversity of the Kenyan communities. So you must be all the time an honest broker. And there are scripts to which we have signed. Like now, we have been appointed to, I think, International Human Rights Council. Yeah. We are part of that. And what are we doing?
That's the question.
We are there. We are there to defend, human rights. And what are we doing at home? Look at the reports today. 65 dead last year. 63 dead last year. 63 dead this year. Many maimed. What are we doing? So this is where we now begin to act contrary to the papers we signed to. Look at what China has done to us. China, through its FOCAC, or Forum for China-Africa Cooperation, they have given us resources to build the railway up to Uganda. They have given us resources to build roads up to Maraba border. They've given us resources to build other roads and other installations. Now the question is, are we going to apply that money transparently? Or we are going to enrich ourselves and possibly not complete the railway? Now it will reach Kisumu and cannot get to Maraba.
That is the eternal question, is it not? What then are we going to do with the opportunities that have been given to us across board? Yeah. That's been our session of Dear Mr. President this morning. Stuff for us to think about and stuff for us to keep in the open discourse, no matter what. Always great to have you in the room, Dr. Peter Kagwanja, who's the CEO of the Africa Policy Institute, has been here with us this morning. Thank you for doing so. Now you can get some rest after coming in from Beijing.
Yes, that's true.
Until the next time we talk, thank you so much.
This is The Situation Room.